What's everybody? It's Nick from Matter Hackers, and before I get into it, just make sure I got the right microphones turned on and not the incorrect microphones turned on. So yeah, last night we worked on getting some of these hangers printed out for my local brewery of choice, and gonna get those delivered here before too long. I'm actually working on another batch tonight. Yeah, it'll be exciting. So we're going to go with the next one and create another round of them. I did find the other screw from last night for the depression for the PTFE tube guide for one of the X1 carbons. And so I'm going to install that. I'm not going to pull the unit back out tonight. We're just going to let it sit where it's at. And then for the remainder, what I was thinking about doing is actually getting into breaking down or the start to tear down the Ender 3 Pros that I have, and we've got two of them. Both of them are going to get turned over to Ender switch wires. Good old Ender 3 Pro. It's like, these have been great. I've used them quite a bit, printed quite a bit with them, but it's time to move on to something a little bit more exciting. And that's where really the 4-ounce switch wire is going to come into play. And so I'm looking forward to the build. We got everything printed out, and yeah, I've just got to start getting into teardown and getting into the instructions and salvage what we can off these units, and then discard what we do not need, or save what we do not need and then repurpose it, because it's like the stepper motors and everything else that we're going to pull off of it. I think I'm going to try to work some robotics with some Arduino controllers later on, build some robotics. Success. First job of the night is done. And so I just kind of put that bracket back into a PTFE connector for the print head on one of the Engraving X1 carbons. So I'm going to kick it over to our computer view. Alright, so now that we got this up, we're going to go ahead and pull up Bamboo Studio. And while that's loading, I'm going to go grab a beer. And so, new project. We're just going to go ahead and load in a new hanger. Shrink this guy down. So for the respawning, one, we're going to do red, yellow, and black. And so same process I went through for the first one. And I still plan on adjusting these models later on. Yeah, that looks fine. Right, so now, turn off our prime tower. So I really don't care if we have a little bit of color bleed between the layers. And we're going to send it. Make sure I have machine 1 selected, template, and don't really need to worry about flow cal because we were running it yesterday. for Bamboo 2, I did look at some stuff on Maker World. For the PTFE routing. I'm going to go ahead and print this in ABS. Yeah, some modification I still need to do, I think. TFE didn't want to feed in the filament, so oh, come on. Where are you getting stuck? Oh, man. So some of this film has just gotten so brittle, I don't know why. It's just gotten really, really brittle, and it keeps snapping. Just sections keep snapping. Yes, I need to do what everybody else does and put those alignment brackets for their X1s. And that just snapped and snapped. Yep. We look at it, it's literally just snapping. It really sucks. I mean, that was a good bit of filament. Let's see here. We're going to go back over here and we're going to change our view. We're going to go back over here and we're going to change our view. Alright, change of plans. we change plans on the fly. Okay. 3 kilo black. Brand new roll 3 kilo black. Matter Hackers build PLA. just going to call that good for right now. That's plenty of black. And so if you guys don't have a respooler, I'd recommend like looking into like printing one, because they're pretty darn cool for one. But it also allows me to use the bamboo spools and take 3 kilos of our good old Matter Hackers Build PLA and transfer it over to these 1 kilos that fit inside the AMS. Making it a really economical option. It's like, just have a basic 3D printed caddy for the excuse me, for the 3 kilo spools. And these ones have a little bit of friction on them, which I like, because it's like when you have like really loose bearings that roll really well, those 3 kilo spools have so much weight, it just, the centrifugal force just wants to like push filament in if you're changing speeds. But this one has a little bit of friction on it, adding a little bit of braking component, which makes it a little bit easier. And so from here, we're just going to back the rest of that material out of that PTFE guide. And take that end, tuck it in. Pull that spool off. I'm just going to disconnect it. And the screw design on this one is anti-clockwise, or I guess that's clockwise threading, because that way when it's locking into place on the carriage, it's continuously pulling inboard pressure on the spool, holding the spool in place. It's worked pretty darn good so far. I mean, I've re-spooled, oh gosh, countless of these, from the 3 kilo rolls down to the 1 kilos. And when you are respooling, you never want to take these all the way up to the brim. You want to leave a good gap in order for this to fit appropriately into the AMS unit itself. So from here, I'm going to snip off that little thin line that I introduced. And we're just going to drop some new filament in. Curious to see if we actually have a piece of filament broke inside the AMS, but we'll find out here in a second. Try. Like a charm. I'm going to take a respooler, going to put my respooler away, and then get back into business. Alright, back to bamboo number 2. So we're going to go ahead and open this one in the studio. Sure, it looks good. I'm going to print off 2 of these guys. And I printed out these AMS PTFE guides last night. I got to get this installed. I'll probably take care of that over the weekend. And so this whole race spooler was all just printed in PLA and carbon fiber reinforced PLA for the gearing, and then just our Matter Hackers Blue PLA for the body. And then it's run the same, you know, skateboard bearings for skateboard trucks. And I think it's got like a total of 7 or 8 bearings. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bearings, running all the gearing mechanisms. So yeah, it's been really fun to play around with, and it's been really fruitful to use. Alright. Off, turn that mic on. Alright, now we're going to want to print 2 of these guys. And so, where I did see that people had the best success is they actually rotated it. Like this. They printed it like this. Let's see. Machine 2. Our generic ABS. And so for this one, I see ABS, 103% scale, 0.2, 2 walls, 15% infill. So let's go with our scale. And it said 103%, so we're going to go 103. So there's our 103 scaling. 2 millimeter high, 2 walls, 15 infill. 2. Walls, infill, let's see, I don't even think there's really going to be a whole lot of infill in this thing, to be honest, but we're going to take a look. Okay, so there's the infill. That's the only spot where there is infill. Except maybe up there. And I don't like some of the cavitative space. So I'm going to kick that up to gyroid and 25%. So I want to see a little bit more bite on infill. And it's just personal preference. It doesn't have to be that way for your guys' prints. And then you don't have to look at it. Alright, send that to machine 2. Alright, so now we got both printers going. Back over to OBS. Back over to OBS. And I'll turn that on. Alright, so now let's get into some fun stuff. So, no failures. No failures. Let's go, no failures. So far, so good. All right. That's off the side. Stuff away. Set these over here for the previous project. And let's tear down. Let's tear down an Ender 3. Alright, so Ender 3s, I've loved these ones. One of them, this one's set up with a single Z screw. My other one is set up for dual Z screw. I did some dual Z screw mods. I changed it out to the all metal extruder gearing. Did a red squirrel modification of the hot end assembly. Added the CR touch, and then I had them hooked up and wired up to a sonic pad. The yellow and green, there's no like specific like colorist or reason why I went with yellow and green, aside from we had a bunch of junk filament at the office and I didn't want to burn through good filament, and so my first test prints and my first prints ever were actually making these belt tensioners and these caddies and carriage systems. And yeah, it was fun for my first few prints when I started getting into 3D printing, but now it's time to say goodbye to all of it and completely revamp these into Ender wires. And I'm really excited to get Ender wires up and running so I can actually start working more production throughput for creation of ukuleles. There we have our toolkit. And a buddy of mine at the office, he actually printed out a case for the iFixit, and I'm kind of jealous of it. I want to print one now. But getting into it, I think we're just going to tear everything off of it and take it all the way down to the frame and leave the frame. my mobile toolkit. Here's my small crescent wrench. And the reason why this one is so long is because it's the only one that I had at the time when I built these things, and I was too lazy to ever go back and swap it out. Don't judge me. Garbage now. Garbage, garbage, garbage. I mean, when I printed these things out, I was super happy. It was like the coolest thing I've ever printed. But, you know, I haven't touched these printers in a hot minute, and I feel bad about not touching them in a hot minute, and so I want to get them repurposed and back into service as something new. Come on. You were locked in there, aren't you? that's right. I'll get to that later. Alright, moving right along. Hooray. Alright. And I don't know if I'm going to keep any of these spare parts, you know. I don't know that I necessarily want to or need to. Come on. There we go. I might store them in a bin somewhere to pull out for a rainy day should I ever decide to rebuild the Ender 3. All these updated screws. Come on. That covers in there good. All right. There we go. What's great about this is, since I'm building two of them, I'm going to have good lessons learned coming off the first build, going right into the second build. And so anything that I screw up on the first build, I'm just going to directly apply that to the second build. And so we're going to take it down to the frame, but we're not going to disassemble the frame. We're going to leave the frame basically intact. And then we're going to set parts and components off to the side once we get into it. I've stripped this all the way down so that we're just going to go ahead and expose the control board and disconnect everything off the actual control board. And so the control boards that I'm running are the silent stepper motor versions of the control board. Fan. I'm sure that'll come into play later on. And we're going to remove our wiring harness and assembly. Set the frame off to the side. So we're not going to break the frame down any more than what this currently is. I'm going to leave the frame intact just like this, because this 40/40 extrusion, it's going to basically kick forward so that where that section is, it's just going to kick forward one position. So these back holes will line up with where the front is, and then the front, and we're going to drop some of those T-nuts. Those T-nuts will go into the bottom track to lock it into place as we slide it forward. So we're only using one set of the pre-drilled holes now. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and disconnect all these. All the cables are already still pre-labeled, so I'm not worried about it. We'll get into the build later on. I just want to break everything down so it's just the exposed control board now. Alright, so I'm just going to leave the control board actually in the original carrier, and as you can see right here, you're running the version 4.2.7 board with the silent stepper motors. I do have some 4.2.3s laying around, I just don't know exactly where I put them, and so I'm not too worried about it right now. I'm going to disassemble the cable. I don't know that I necessarily need to get rid of the cable bundling, but I want to make sure that I have at least the plate separated out. And the thermistor for the plate separated out, so I need to find where that strip of the tape is. Through, and we're going to set the board off the heated print bed heater off to the side. Now, I may have to pull these studs out, which is going to suck because I have the magnetic sheet placed on here, and I don't know how difficult it's going to be to remove that. Fairly easy, actually, so we'll just leave that magnetic plate on there for the time being. Alright. What else do we got to break down on this? Take it out and take apart the y-axis, or the x-axis. Break this down. I don't know how far I need to actually break it down, because I think we're going to be running the extruder that came with the kit for the x-axis. And so the only thing I may actually need to remove are some of the fans, maybe the CR Touch. These are snips that have a badly blunted tip. PTFE jammed in there. All right. Moving right along. Okay, that doesn't make sense. Oh. That's using the old noodle. I think we're good after that, and I'll probably break some more of this down later on. And I'm probably just going to get a junk bin put together for Creality parts, because I don't have enough junk bins around here. So I don't know how many of these cables we're going to end up reusing, if any. On my other ender display, so likely spot to store everything. think I could put the extrusion in there with it. Maybe. No. I'll have to take it apart. It's worth a shot. I'm kind of a pack rat. I don't really like to throw anything away. It's a really bad habit of mine. If I have something and it works, and I know that I might pull it out in the future, or I might do something with it in the future, I end up putting it in a bin, and I end up storing it. And if you look around my garage, the amount of just miscellaneous things that I have just everywhere, of various different forms and types and whatnot, it's kind of... I need help. So I'm going to pull the documentation for the actual Subaru build. I'm going to take a look at it and then go ahead and start cataloging everything that we might need to save for the future. I'm going to grab a Ziploc so I can put the original cables and all the parts and components into there. The Allen wrenches, so that we'll need those for the other teardown. Yeah, these wheels have seen better days. They've got some good wear on them. But when I was cranking it with the Sonic pad was getting these things to zip pretty good. And you know, I read a couple times where it's just like, hey, if you just want to like increase your speed, why don't you just keep it on the Sonic pad? And it's like, the problem that I have with the Sonic pad is that I would have to keep going back through and doing manual bed leveling ever so often. Even though I had the CR Touch on there, it's just the mesh. Every other print, the mesh would adjust so dramatically that I just wasn't happy with the results. And so I'm really looking forward to, you know, adjusting it so that it's running on linear rails. And there was also a bunch of, like, you know, conversation about, well, if you're just going to run linear rails, just take off the belted system or the wheel system and just attach linear rails and run everything off linear rails and just print the adapters. And again, if I was going to go through that trouble, I figured I might as well just go ahead and convert it over to a switch wire, because I want to go through, you know, not an Ender 3 build. I want to go through the actual Boron build and get it up and running and have it on a true clipper backbone versus the clipper in the Sonic pad. The Sonic pad works great. I still have mine at my office hooked up to my Ender 3 S1, and I print on that one at the office near daily. Just little odds and ends or jobs that I know that I can accomplish on it. And it still works great, but again, I want to look at the professionalization of the printers I have here in my garage, and not these yellow and green Ender 3s that I've got kind of all over the place. So that won't fit in there, so I'll put it back in that cabinet after I go get a Ziploc. So I'll be right back. handy dandy Sharpie. Ender 3 Pro. Tear down 1. Got all my screws and widgets and gadgets. I'm sure we will be revisiting this bag as we get into the build for the Sabur. I'll throw the belts in here. Throw the wheels in here. Alright. There is tear down 1. And it's like these stepper motors, I think I'm going to do something with them in the near future, you know. And it's like robotics kind of interests me, and it's like if I can automate like a robotic arm, I think that'd be a kind of cool project to repurpose a lot of the stuff that came off of the Ender 3 Pro into something completely new. Here we have our good old Meanwell power supply. Good Lord. I'm going to leave those cables just attached for the time being. Okay, power supply, main board, fan, switch, power supply housing, box back down. Alright, now we're going to go ahead and look. Turn on our auxiliary mic, turn off the GoPro mic. All right. So this is the one that I bought, and I bought it right from Sabur, and I did without because I printed my own parts. Bomb list, description. So rail sealed enclosure. Let's see. Dimensions, weight, reviews, column list. Where is the build instructions? I think I downloaded them already. I deleted them. Oh, here we go. Alright, so intro before, yep. Awesome. Intro. We got all of our heat sets. We got that toolkit, which is really awesome. We got our regions and our region management. So this is all the heat set inserts we're going to need to place into the unit. And I'm going to save all those heat sets for another night because, like, yee, that's a lot of them. And so this is the one thing that I don't have is the tapping of the extrusion. And so I may have to give this a look. And so from what I know, and it taps on the extrusions, only be able to mount the print the parts. The schematic picture on the extrusion marked in blue needs tapping at both ends. And so I guess it's only going to be this one. And it says in blue, is that going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And then, you know, on the opposite end, so 12 per side, so 24 tappings. And then I'll give that video a look, and so I do need to reattach that top rail. And here's where we're talking about moving the Y extrusion forward, so I need to pull those locking bolts back out for the top. And so I'm not going to worry about tapping yet. We'll save that for another night. So, work this real quick. What we'll do is we'll just turn on the TV display and we'll get this set up so it fits over the same spot. And turn those on and off as necessary. Turn those on and off as necessary. Okay, so we're going to clean off the workbench. Pull these guys back out. Should be 1, 2, 3, and 4. And little Condra PEI sheets. Love these things. I'll tell you what, changing things over to those texture PEI plates was a game changer for me. And I hated just like slathering glue onto prints and then just letting glue sit there and then washing build plates off. And as soon as I changed over to the texture PEI plates, it's just like been a night and day difference. Ta-da! So now we have our no longer Ender 3 Ender 3. And again, this is the Ender 3 Pro is what we're using as the base for 2 of our 4-on switch wires. And they did have the Meanwhile power supply on there, so I'm really excited about that because I know that there was a change at some point where they went to a different manufacturer versus the Meanwhile. And I wasn't sure which ones we had, but we got the Meanwhile power supplies for these units, so that's a huge plus for me. And so, going back over. This is what I don't know about, and we'll get into it for the tapping. Is in the process of converting the Ender 3, we need to tap some of the extrusions. Only be able to mount them there at the parts. The extrusion marked in blue needs tapping at both ends. And so I think this is just showing, hey, this is how you tap, and here are all 3 of the extrusions that do need to be tapped. And so I think it's going to be the extrusion marked in blue needs tapping at both ends. Let's see. Let's be sliding it forward, and it's changing the nuts. 5x10s. Okay. So we're going to have to work on getting a tap kit. And I think I got one at the office that I'll pull back to the house and maybe work on that tomorrow night. There's T-nuts in the Y-axis extrusion. Slide that forward 20 mil. So 2 will go through the thread, 2 will go through the T-nut. So button head screw caps and then socket head screw caps. So I guess what we can do is we can actually, now that I have this broken down, we'll go into kind of an unboxing of this bore system. finish pulling down all the way before I pull those off. Alright, change our scene again. And I'm going to work the buttonology on this here so I can get my Stream Deck set up so I can just push button scene select. I'm going to work the buttonology on this here so I can get my Stream Deck set up so I can just push button scene select. Alright, so what we're going to do now is we're going to pull the Sabor kit over and do a quick unbox of it. Alright, Fragile. Hey look, it's my name. Been having camera issues, so I'm always constantly glancing over at the screen to make sure the cameras are on. They haven't shut off. So this is the what we received in from Sabor for the Interwires kit, and so I'm probably going to pull most of these out only as a as-needed basis. But one of the first things I was really impressed about with the kit is the screw kit, and so the screw kit. It's got everything labeled, everything's already pre-established in each one of the spots where it's supposed to go. So it's like M5 by 40. We should have 12 of these. It's like M5 by 45. We got 4 pieces. It looks like we have a double bag, so it looks like 2 sets of M5 by 4. Well, no, they're 2 different ones. Some longer ones, it looks like. And we've got M5 by 10 button head screw caps. And so the kit looks like it's got everything that we're going to need to set up and be successful. And so here's our see, M3 by 50, 4 pieces, and so I'm going to probably start looking at undoing all of these darn things. But I mean, it's pretty set. I mean, I'm really impressed with how they have it, because it's like I've had builds where, you know, you just get a miscellaneous bag of parts and then you have to categorize everything out. Luckily, it's like I have a ton of Gridfinity boxes that I use for some of my projects and some of my builds, but having an already pre-established kit, it's like, man, there's a million uses that I have just for this case for holding spare parts once we get out of the build and on to the next projects. So here we have our Revo pod end assembly with some spare nozzles. Thermal, more nozzles. Our heater block. Core. tubing. And a silicone sock. It's like we got a bunch of Vorons at the office, and I always walk by and I'm like, man, I really want to pick up like one of the R2.5, like, or a 2.4 350, or you know, one of the bigger ones. So we got our pancake stepper motor. We have our pre-wired switch for power, which means I can junk this one that came off the Creality. Just makes it easy. Here is our stop, and so this is if the printer loses power, that the X-axis gantry isn't going to go crashing down to the print bed or into the model. And it's got some really good tension on it. And so we've got our fans, our blower fans. There's our fan for our undercarriage, a random Allen key. This looks like we have our wiring diagram, and so we've got our A2 green, blue, black, that should be red, and so all of our miscellaneous connectors. This is going to be for power. Some 3M double-sided sticky tape, a boatload of zip ties, more cables, and so these look like they're for LED lightings, thermistor, heater, a Z-stop or an N-stop switch, so a couple different lights, and that's probably going to be for the stealth burner. Our heater core and a Z-stop switch and a thermistor. So that's all going to be for hot end assembly bag, or the stealth burner bag. This little guy, I don't know what it is to yet, but I'm sure we'll find out during the build. We have our belt. And so this is our Voron design, and this is going to be a step-off board for voltage change to the power supply, if I recall correctly, with a 15 amp fuse on it. And so we'll figure this out a little bit more later on. I'm surprised I didn't put them in anti-static bags versus, you know, just bubble wrap. This guy, I believe this is our step down. And so this is our 24 volt step down to 5 volt. Yeah, so input 12 to 24, step down to 5 volt, 5 amp. So that's our step down. Here we have our little printed circuit boards, and so this is going to be for the stealth burner, and it's actually labeled on there stealth burner. And so these are going to be our control boards that are going to go into the actual stealth burner head. We've got all of our cabling. This is probably going to be for the stealth burner as well. And I believe this guy is our accelerometer, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know. Well, we'll see when we get into the build. A little box. And so this little box has all of our pulley wheels. And it looks like they're just like pulley wheel halves, and so there'll be 2 of these pulley wheels on each one of the assembly parts. Next up, we've got, so this is the factory screen, and I don't plan on running the factory screen with the knob. And so this is the Seaboard Design ones with push button and the selector. So it's got a 5-way selector and then the turn knob. And this is a Fistech. I don't plan on running the Fistech with a USB-C power throughput because I plan on running the LCD touch panel that I have with my MakerBase Mark III's Pi boards. So next up we've got USB cables. That'll be for the setup. More wiring. This looks like it's all going to be for power. Ah, yes. Really excited about this. So we've got our Omron proximity sensor, and so I will not need to use the CR Touch. We got our drag chains. So we drag chains for X, Y, and Z. And finally on this top layer we've got our upgraded stepper motors. So super exciting. And so these are the Seaboard motors. And so it's kind of cool that they have their own branded motors for the kit. So next layer down, and I am really happy that they did actually send it with another mag plate, so I can rip that magnetic plate that's on there, and this should interface direct with my gold PEI plates, because it's like I'll probably test like the Sabur one versus the Comgrow. For some reason I just like the gold texture, and yeah, the magnetic bed works just fine, so I'll probably stick with the Comgrow golden PEI sheet. I don't know why. I just like gold better. We got some feet. I'll just leave those in there. I believe this is going to be LED strip lighting. And so, yeah, that's LED strip lighting that we got right here. So this is going to be LEDs for the internals. And I don't remember if I printed out the LED brackets, and so, yeah, and here we go. So this is the cut down X-axis extrusion. And so I don't need to use the X-axis from the actual Ender 3 Pro for the build, so that's nice. And then from here we've got our linear rails, and the linear rails, from what I understand, is we're going to need to actually lubricate these up pretty darn well. I do have lube here to get these set so we have good fluid motion prior to getting these installed. So we've got one, 2, 3, 4, 5. Our linear rail kits, and then next layer down, I believe this is going to be all enclosures, and so the enclosures are coming in a couple different parts. And so I've got my clear acrylic, and that clear acrylic is going to be for the front plates in the the top of the enclosure. And then these ones, this is going to be the black, and so the black should be for the back half of the enclosure for the top, along with all the deck plating for the unit. So we've got several different pieces of pre-cut acrylic, both in clear and black. I think that's all that is in the box. And so we're going to set everything back in here. Wrap that second layer back in. And I'm going to pull just this stuff out as needed when I get to each section of the build. So I'm going to rebox it back up and just set the box off to the side for the time being. If I can remember where everything goes, that is. I don't think it'd be too hard. Pancake stepper. So this is going to be for hot end. Fans. And more fans. Here. We're going to get into the build, so I'm not too concerned about where everything has to go back in its exact positioning spot. So, and we'll probably just leave the toolkit out. All right. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to kind of getting to this build and really looking at professionalizing our current printers and no longer making them enders, but making them Franken enders. I'm excited. And so that's I'm kind of wrap it up a little bit early tonight. It's 1:36 in the morning. Give me an extra half hour of sleep or so. Depending on what happens when I go back inside and how long it takes for one of my daughters to wake up. But yeah, we're gonna you know what? I just happened to glance over and see that the wide-angle camera had shut off, and so I don't know how long I've been just kind of like rambling, and it wasn't synced. So I have no idea how much was captured in the last little bit. So I'll just go through a quick recap of what I was just talking about. And for the recap, I'm looking at tomorrow and getting all the parts arrayed, and I've got 2 different sets of parts for each one of the systems. So I'm going to get all the parts arrayed and really get into taking all the heat sets and pressing all the heat sets in. With one of the videos we did in the last couple days is getting a Dremel 220 workstation, attaching a soldering iron to it to serve as a heat set press, and that'll hopefully expedite our process of making sure that these heat sets are going in at a complete 90-degree angle to prevent any potential for cross-threading in the future, and apply a good amount of downward pressure that's just not by hand or hand force. And so, yeah, really looking forward to doing all of this and getting it set up, and then, yeah, well, we'll see how many nights this is going to take us. I think tomorrow's just going to be heat sets, and maybe getting into tapping all 24 of the extrusions. Yeah, well, we'll see how it goes. Anyway, Nick from Nick's Late Night, or The Late Night Garage with Nick, signing off, and you guys have a great and wonderful rest of your night, and we'll get into the build for the switch wire conversion.